Obviously, I'm hosting a podcast on your podcast, which is something I'd never thought that I would see or have an opportunity to do. But obviously, you're here with the Softball America podcast and Tara Henry. I'm Tim Walton, the head softball coach at the University of Florida and assistant softball coach with the U.S. national team. Tara, I think this is fun because you and I are getting an opportunity to be on the screen together and talk. And, we've shared the field in Ireland this past summer. And then I've seen you out a million times on the recruiting trail and on TV, running the bases and getting hits at UCLA in your day on the five games a year that softball was on TV
Yes.
back in the early 2000s, so this is super fun. I think for me, the inspiration behind this conversation I'm having with you is just really about the work that goes on behind the scenes. For Great Britain, obviously you were announced as the head coach, and I'm sure there's a lot of other titles there: manager, recruiting coordinator, talent evaluator, and all the other things, travel coordinator. But can you tell me especially, but how did you, what inspired you to want to be the Great Britain national team head coach? Being a really good player from Southern California and going to UCLA, and where does that inspiration come from?
Well, we'll start there. First and foremost, Tim, thank you for jumping on and hosting a podcast. This is going to be absolutely epic, and I cannot think of a better host to just come on here and have such a breadth of knowledge and chat with. But we'll start with Great Britain, and it's a really interesting story. At the end of the day, gosh, we always talk about growing the game, right? And we talk about making sure that our game is sustainable and that we can get back into the Olympics. And I had lived in Great Britain. I'd lived in England and had worked with some of their teams while I lived there when I was going to school. And I'd gotten a phone call about helping the coaching search. I said, well, I'll help you find a coach. And Gary Anderson, the high performance director, who is now our high performance director, I said, listen, I'll send this out to a bunch of coaches. I know them all. And, we got some applications back, but just not as many as we had thought. And so then one day he called up and he said, Tara, I think I'd like for you to apply. Would you consider applying? And I said, me? I said, I don't know, Gary. I don't know if I'm the right person for the job. I said, but you got to put your money where your mouth is. If you're talking about growing the game and have an opportunity to go somewhere and make a difference. And so that's kind of how it started, and interviewed and spoke to the British Softball Federation, and kind of the rest is history. There's a lot to that, but at the end of the day, it was always about growing the game. And this is before softball was named in the Olympics, and it was a really fun project and has been thus far.
Well, I think that, and we'll ask a little backstory on how you got over to Great Britain and to England in particular with schooling. But, my background is really interesting to me, obviously, maybe not to other people, but, coming to know softball, I was a history major in college, and I had to learn everything that there was about the game of softball. So, I was thrown into a dugout in 1999 with Patty Gasso and at the University of Oklahoma. I'm very fortunate for my time there because I learned a ton from Coach Gasso and the players in the game. But going backwards, I actually got it in the mail last night, my 25th year in the NFCA, so the National Fast Pitch Coaches. So I got my bat. It's a little wooden bat with 25 years of service, and NFCA just celebrated 40 years of service, and I just go, wow, how much I've learned about the game, and just all of the things that the game has taught me. But I've been to the World Series, and now I've started to expand on the international scene and learning about other countries, and Great Britain in particular, the European game in particular. just how we in 2019 trying to amplify the opportunity for France to host softball and baseball in the Olympics, and obviously the decision was made to host other sports, and we all know what those sports are, but to play the first ever fast pitch softball game on a rugby pitch in a little town outside of Dublin, Ireland in 2019 was one of the highlights of we pulled up in the bus, and mind you, the bus was a smaller bus than what we're used to in the United States. And they've got a rugby pitch with breakaway fences, and it kind of looked like a snow fence.
Yep.
And we're chalking the line with like literally baby powder. We're doing they were getting it ready to host this event of the Irish national team against at that time it was the junior team. And it was so fun to see a country get behind a sport that just doesn't have a ton of experience and a ton of legs in Europe. And so I would imagine that's what you're experiencing a little bit when you go over. You're obviously not the head coach of a Premier League football club. You're coaching the women of Great Britain. And so give me a little backstory to the schooling, the education. Like, obviously you spent time over there at Brighton, and tell me about, I guess, your experience educationally, but on the sports side in general, because I would imagine that is so different than, say, a sport management major at the University of Florida or UCLA.
Yes, it's very different. And you're correct. I went to the University of Brighton and I got a master's degree in sport for international development and peace. So how we use sport as a tool to bring countries, nations, people together and use it for good. And, I would say that during that time, I was living in Eastbourne, going to the University of Brighton and studying sport at a very academic level, and how various nonprofit organizations were using different sports to solve hunger, to solve socioeconomic issues, to bring warring communities together. And I really stepped back and thought about elite sport, number one, in America. I thought about my time as an athlete and playing in Division I, playing at UCLA, and being so focused on winning a national championship, being so focused on training in the day-to-day, to step back and really see how sport could be used to better someone's life, not only, as we competing, but to really see it in a different manner. When I look back, it really was a life-changing experience for me. And it allowed me to see the sport of softball from a very different lens, and how we could use softball to get more girls and women simply moving in various countries. And Tim, I saw it work in a tiny small village in the Gambia in Western Africa. Simply took this game, which it was called Cuatro Esquina before, four corners in Spanish, and the WBSC has since taken it and codified it, and it's now Baseball 5. And I watched these young kids hit a ball. It's basically a handball in the center of the small village. It's called Barending in Western Africa. And the joy and the laughter and what I saw it do to these girls and boys, it was mixed, how I saw them come together, and it wasn't playing football or soccer where the boys dominated. You simply could see that the girls were on a level playing field. And from that point forward, I knew that my mission in life would be to make sure that girls and women have more opportunities, not just in America, but across the entire world. And I think that's when my real true journey into development started, not only as, a player, as a coach, but as an advocate for the sport of softball.
Yeah, it's funny when you're telling your story, and you're obviously, you've got a lot of passion. I've been around you a bunch, and I've seen you do your podcast. You've got a lot of energy, a lot of passion. You take a lot of pride of, not only where you came from, where you graduated from, but, the promotion of the game. But to hear you talk about people that you didn't even know, and how much they inspired you to be more than you probably thought you could be. I would have to say this, like when you were telling me that story, I'm hearing Stacey Nelson in my office tell me the same type of stories. Like Stacey Nelson is one of the purest hearts, the sweetest souls I've ever been around. I mean, competitive as all get up. I mean, she's probably still one of the top 5 of all time wins in the NCAA softball for a pitcher. But she just had a lot of passion for people that didn't have it like her. And she would go over to Uganda, and she would do other things in other, in African countries, and, and raise money to dig a hole in the ground to provide clean water to a community. To see here sport being able to unite girls, boys, women, men alike is awesome. And, I'm sure we can all say it that, that softball, it's just a game, but we all know that it's not just a game, not the most. It's hard to say it's just a game to Great Britain. I watched Great Britain compete, at the World Championship last year. It wasn't just a game there. It wasn't just a game when I went to the Pan Ams in Santiago, Chile. We played the Chilean national team. First game they've ever played fast pitch softball in Chile. It wasn't just a game, so thanks for that. Honestly, I wasn't expecting that type of inspiration to come out of today. But that's the cool thing about I say our sport. I've done this for such a long time, and I used to say softball, and now I say our sport, because I've really, I have a lot of respect and a lot of pride in the people that came before Tim Walton and the way the game was and where the game's at. I was coaching the USSSA Pride in 2010, the summer after the World Series. Don DiDonatis hired me to coach. He asked me like 6 times to do it. I told him no.
It's like, how many times did he ask you?
No, I can't do it. It's too much. And so, long story short, my former athletic director, Jeremy Foley, said, "Tim, why do you want to coach? Why do you want to coach in the summer? How's this good for the Gators?" And I said, "Jeremy, I've got a chance to coach Natasha Watley, Jessica Mendoza, Caitlin Lowe, Lauren Lappin, Kat Osterman, Megan Willis. Those are some of the best names of the sport of all time at their positions. And there's so many more. Obviously, you can go as far back as, Joan Joyce is probably one of the best pitcher of all time. But for me, the game was Natasha Watley. The game was Kat Osterman. These guys are, amazing. Can you think back, whether you were, the 10-year-old Tara Henry or where you're at now as the leader of the Great Britain National? Can you tell me where you gained your biggest sense of inspiration, like from the sport, like an individual, a person who has that on you, who gave you that?
I don't know if it's just one person. I've had so many incredible coaches and so many incredible mentors throughout my time just being a part of the sport. And I always look back and think about being on the Bat Busters, and Gary Hanning was my coach, and going from Gary Hanning to Sue Enquist at UCLA. And before that, Doug Myers and Jim Dolan and a long line of, Jerry Morrow is the one that turned me into a slapper. And at that time, it was the first kind of time that people were actually doing that, back in the 1990s. But, going from Gary Henning to Sue Enquist and playing at UCLA and having that type of coach, I felt really lucky and very fortunate because things were done the right way, and they were done every day. We did, kind of the monotonous things, but they were done every day. So I think the hard work and the work ethic, being on a team with Angia Duran, which still to this day, I remember my sophomore year, we went to Women's College World Series. We lost to Michigan, and I left that Women's College World Series knowing I didn't work hard enough. And I remember having a conversation with Dre, and I remember those next 2 years just working my tail off and really, staying early or going early and staying late and hitting with Dre before practice and after practice. And then Natasha Watley came in, and basically hitting with Tosh every day for an hour. And so, gosh, there's just been so many people that I've been so fortunate to be around. And then when you look at the international game, I think one of my best friends that I made is Petra Chismic out of Croatia, and she's now the development manager of all of Europe. And so throughout my time, there's been so many just incredible leaders that I've been around, and people that are doing the right thing, and are doing it for the love of the game, right? Like we talked about this earlier. It's not necessarily about, making a ton of money. It's about how can we come together and do the right thing and do it in a way that helps lift each other up. So I know that's a long, answer to it, but starts there. And then obviously my mom and dad, I think when you're raised to believe you can do anything that you put your mind to, that's pretty powerful. And my mom's always been in my corner, and my dad, he's my rock. And I think having a father that was always supportive and, my biggest fan, he watches everything, he likes everything, and, checks everything out. So I would say having a good, strong base, and obviously my mom and dad, and a long line of incredible coaches. But, some of those names. So there's some old school names that.
Well, it's funny you said Gary. Gary, I actually was in Philadelphia on my way to Cooperstown with my oldest son. We were going to Cooperstown to play in the tournament. Everywhere we went, we watched a Major League Baseball game. But more importantly, we found a place where we could actually practice along the way. I told my son we're going to hit everywhere we go. And Jerry was in Philadelphia, and next thing you know, Jerry's unlocking the doors for us to hit it at St. Joseph's University, upstairs of the basketball. They got a batting cage. We went up there and we hit, and it was like, this is unbelievable. So just the names you mentioned, and obviously Jim Dolan with Case Batbusters, and then all the names, and Gary's a Hall of Famer and one of the best, obviously, to do it of all time. You said that something kind of just thinking about myself and my journey a little bit with USA softball. So I had won in 2015, was an assistant coach under Taraya, and we won in Oklahoma City. We won the World Championships. We beat Japan 5-0, I think, in Oklahoma City. It was awesome. It was my first real international championship.
This is in Japan?
This was against Japan, but in Oklahoma City.
Oh, City. Okay.
So totally different, totally different experience.
Yeah.
And so 2019, I interviewed for the junior women's national team head coaching position, and went through the committee. You do. I don't remember if it was on.
Yeah, we should talk about that. I don't even know what that's like. How that process is, because I've heard that.
Why do you think you're good enough, and what do you think you can bring? And it's like, well, let's see. We've won one world championship, and we won a couple World Series championships.
I was gonna say, did you put the World Series in there? Just like, hey, hello.
I went in. I don't remember what year it was, but I went to Australia. I went over as a consultant, and they just wanted me to watch the women's teams and the state competition for their national championship, and it was a great experience.
Which is different in Australia, right?
Prideful, very prideful, and the Japanese influence that they have. A lot of their players go over to Japan and play in the industrial leagues over there, and it was great. But I go back, and so it was Heather and I were I think the finalists for the 2019 job. So I go to camp in January. Heather's the coach; she's the head coach, and I'm there as the helping, not select the team, but front toss and help managing the process. And Heather asked me, she goes, "You'd want to coach with me?" I said, "Heather," I said, "I only interviewed for the job to be the head coach because I had a great experience, but you're a woman, and if you're going to be the head coach of the women's national team, I'm all on board. Like, I have no ego involved in this. I just came to do this to help provide another opportunity for athletes to continue to get better while playing for their country." And I think she was a little shocked that I didn't have I got to be the head coach or nothing. And,
ego? No, Tim Walton, ego? No.
Not an ego. Really, I'm a very confident individual because I feel like I work hard enough to be that, but there's no ego. You ask anybody that played, for the USSSA Pride, for the Gators, for the women's national team or the junior team, it's really all about the players. Like, I could care less. We joked one time, and you'll watch, everybody's doing autographs or doing all their stuff, and you'll see Tim Walton go out the side gate, and no one even knows he just disappeared. That's what I love about the international game. They have no idea who I am because I'm not a player, and I love that. I can front toss, I can hit ground balls, fly ball, I can do all that stuff, and it's all about the players. And I think that kind of sparks me to my next question for you.
Yeah.
And that is, international softball. And, we all know that softball, I mean, if you go in the United States right now, you go football, you go basketball, you probably go baseball, softball in that order, potentially. Sometimes some would say softball, baseball. I think baseball's done a great job of speeding their game up to really getting back the major league audience. College softball had probably their best viewership at the World Series last year they've had in, probably 20 years. It was fun to watch. I mean, obviously I was watching the Gators go all the way down to the end, but it was so fun to watch. Tell me about the international game and why do we, because I think this is where I thought this would be the best. Yeah. Why do we do what we do for the international game when we can just stay right here in our hometowns and we can probably make more money. We could probably do more things. I don't coach for the money. I'll be honest with you. I at one point in time, I went to school so I could be a high school coach and teacher. And that's what I thought my life was going to be. And I'd be perfectly happy with that. So why the international game? What can we bring, and what do we think they can bring to keep us going like we're going to try to grow this game and get softball and baseball, because we're together as the WBSC. What do we have to do to get that thing in the Olympics and stay in the Olympics and never go away? What's the inspiration for that?
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think when you take a look at international softball and you take a look at why we do what we do, and I think you and I are in the same boat here. I think it's almost at its purest form. The sport feels to me that it's almost at its purest form because, like you said earlier, you take a look at Team USA in Dublin, Team Australia, Team Ireland, Team Chinese Taipei, Team Botswana, and then Team Great Britain. And there is nothing like walking on the field with another country on the other side. And
which I know this, I can only say this because not everybody got to see you, but Great Britain walked into the rugby pitch in Ireland with gear head to toe. Looking sharp as it was pretty impressive to see your gear. You guys all, it was some,
geared up.
some high. I thought it was a Premier League football club coming. You guys had it wasn't silk, but it was pretty dang, I don't know. The look was very sharp. You came in like 25 people deep, not counting the players, and it was sharp. It was sharp.
Yeah, I can thank Kit King for that. That was our Kit sponsor. Kit is the same thing as gear for us listening in the States, and there's just really nothing like it. And the melding of people and cultures and different ways of doing things is so, and when I say doing things, whether it's drills, whether it's the way you walk onto the field, the way people warm up, I think that cross-cultural experience that we all feel is why it feels like it's at its purest form. And you have people coming together to play for a country, to play for a nation. And it was such an honor to stand on that field with our entire squad, with our coaching staff, with our support staff, with our athletes, and then to play Team USA and have you guys, our good friends on the other side. That was really, really special. And I think it was a full circle moment because we talk about growing the game, but that was the time we're like, hey, we can do this. Like if we just roll our sleeves up and work together and figure this out, we can do this. We can make softball big in Europe. And let me say, we're not just starting now. There's been so many incredible people throughout Europe that have been doing this work on the ground with little to no resources. And, you know, that has been happening. They've been laying the groundwork. Czech Republic, the Netherlands, Italy. Like I talked about my friend Petra in Croatia. And when I look back at the Great Britain squad, they were doing this all on their own dime for the past 8 years and paying their own way. And I'm talking players were paying. They're paying for their uniforms, their equipment. They were giving up their time and their money just for the pure love of the game. And I know, Tim, I know you feel the same way, if not more, in terms of those experiences. But you've been across, the globe and been in and experienced different cities. What has been your favorite kind of memory or experience just being with the national team?
And obviously when you do something for the first time, it really it changes your kind of your gauge on everything. And so I coached 2015. It was in Oklahoma City. We went pretty much all the way through. We had some really good players on that team. We went all the way through that championship pretty easily. But we got a chance to bond as a team and get together quite a bit in the summer. The 2019 Junior Women's National Team, that was with Heather Tarr as the head coach, Cindy Ball Malone as the pitching coach, Tony Baldwin as the hitting coach, and then Tim Walton as the third base coach, and also the team driver on the wrong side of the road. They somehow tasked me as being that the European driver, and I probably drove like an American in Europe. It was not good, but yet I was better than everybody else, or at least willing to try.
Yes,
2019 was cool because we flew into Paris. We went outside of Paris to France. They just built a new two-turf field. We got to play at that time the 23 and under Japanese team, and then the French national team, again trying to promote and grow. And we did free clinics and some other stuff. And then that team was down to its last. We went into extra innings against Goto, who was a junior women's national team player there. We had Montana Fouts and Reagan Ferramo going for us. We went extra innings, and the greatest moment I can tell you was when Frankie Hamoudi, who just finished her career at Oregon State, hits a 3-run home run in the 8th inning to tie the game. And I'm talking a 299-foot bomb. I could barely just miss going out of both stadiums at Bill Barber. And the coolest thing was all the teams are there. So Botswana, Canada, Chinese Taipei, obviously USA, Ireland was there. We're playing Japan, and I think I might have missed one other country, maybe the Netherlands. But long story short, there was quite a few people in the stands cheering for Japan to win that because, obviously the United States has been that player, especially the junior game, for such a long time. And Frankie to do that was amazing. And then followed by Charlotte Eccles. And then we end up walking off to win the junior women's. It was the coolest experience because to play Japan, and that was Japan playing like Japan, like amazing defense and really good pitching and finding a way to hit it where you weren't. And it was really a good chess match. But the experience that we gained all summer long, being able to be a part of a team and a group, and it's helped me as a coach at Florida. That's the one thing I've learned from those 3 coaches from the international game. And but man, it was it was a lot different putting your hand on your heart and watching your athletes get a gold medal on the podium. It's not something that you're not ready for the emotions that come over you when you're standing on the podium, obviously getting any medal, but to receive the gold in that fashion with those athletes and those coaches was such a really special feeling for sure.
And that was an incredible team, that 2019 team. That had everybody on it. It was pretty good. Some of those kids, was the Irvine championship.
Yeah. And some of those kids are still playing. I always joke with Skylar Wallace, who was on that team. She's on my team now. I'm like, I call Coach Wallace on my staff now. Because she's 24 years old now. And, and the same thing with Jess Williams over at UCF, who was at Oregon out of high school. And Jess
Yeah.
Severs.
She was Severs out of high school.
And then
I know
both
I called that game, Tim.
Oh, you did?
I was
It was amazing. I didn't even know that part.
Yeah, it was amazing.
But it's such a, the international game, like you said, is, I didn't really think of it that way. The purest of the pure. It's playing for the right reasons. It's playing for your country. It's playing for your teammates. It's
there's no NIL money there.
I coach for the gear. Like I told Chris Stieber and Craig, like, hey, we got to get the hats. I coach for the. I mean, I'm not making a dime. And you know what? I do it every time. All it needs is just a little 3/4 zip and a polo and a cool pair of Nike red, white, and blue kicks. It's that's the. But you know what? When I got the ring, because we got a world championship ring, I'm telling you what, I'm like, oh my gosh, how many people would die to have a ring that said world champions on it. And I can tell you that it's more pride than it is brag. It's about just being proud of of those. It's just it's so much fun to coach people from other parts of the country, like our own country, because I jump in and it's like, hey, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to help you do what you want to do better. And that's why I love it. I love being able to, I just love it because I just learned so much about the game, and I take a lot of pride in recognizing just how well we have it here in the United States and the resources that we have. And it's a lot of fun. I've never once been, I've never once regretted my decision to help grow our game a little bit more.
Yeah, and I always wonder, because now that I've sat on the other side of the dugout from you, and I can see Tony Baldwin, Tim Walton, Cindy Ball Malone, Heather Tarr. I remember asking you something, you're like, nope, you got to go talk to Coach Tarr. She's the boss. And I like literally sitting there like, that is it's so interesting to sit on the other side and see these incredible minds all come together. How is that? What is that like? What is that relationship like between the four of you?
Yeah. So it's funny because again, I go back to this, to wanting to be the head coach and then being able to take my role, and that's the one thing that I think Heather has done a really good job of. I'm going to share something real quick too, because I think this was fun. I told you I wouldn't do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I asked your dugout because I think for this, it's really important. Because I'm a baseball guy. And you're obviously not a baseball guy. You're a softball gal and somebody who's just. And so your idea how to win a championship is probably different than my idea how to win a championship. Your idea how to connect the team is probably different than my idea how to connect the team, let alone connect the country to your experiences. So this is something that I thought was really cool. Your ability to bring Great Britain. To be resilient, to create a vision, to not only for the team, but all the people involved from the top down, the ability to create a plan and show the steps of how it is going to be done. Tara is great at creating a belief. She's a connector. So that's a direct quote from your dugout about you. I did a little homework on that. I did a little dirt digging. But I would echo that. Like Heather Tarr is really good at creating a role, creating an identity. We did a love language, a love language sheet with the teams and the group, and getting everybody to buy in. When you've got, and I mean this, like you watch, and you've got Mia Davidson up in front of her entire teammates, and she's got tears coming down her face, telling her teammates how special it is for Team USA to be a part of her life and her to be a part of this program. It's unmatched. You cannot. I couldn't script that, and I think that's one thing. And then then you bring over Jocelyn Allo, one of the greatest softball names, players, brands of all time, and she's talking about the importance of what it's like for her to be her, but still the USA part of it, and growing that to a level of not only pride, but sustainability over time. Heather does that. Heather does that really good job of being able to create more than just the X's and O's. And I say that because she's really good at that. And then she says, hey, what do you want? And I have a lane, and I'm the guy like, hey, if it says 7:05, we're doing it at 7:04. Like, it's all about being able to do it, within the space and time and the rules that they allow. Like, we're ready to go. 7:04, we got 5 minutes to do X, Y, and Z things. So she has me keeping up with the time and the clocks and that stuff. And then Cindy wants to know every out, every this, every that. So you're facing a team. She wants to know all the things and then Tony speaks a different language to each hitter. And Tim Walton's job isn't to speak, even though I have a lot of experience with Amanda Lorenz and a lot of experience. I mean, Charlotte Eccles and all the players that I've had a chance to coach that I've actually coached in college. It's Tony's. Like, I'm not going to go over there and say, hey, I think you need to do this or do that. Like, we all have a level of respect for each other that, Cindy, you're calling pitches. You want me to move the outfielders in? We'll move the outfielders in. You want me to move the shortstop over? We'll do that. But we've got to understand that we can't cover everything in the game. You just tell me what's important to you and Heather does a really good job of managing, but I don't have to answer to anybody but Heather, and I let Heather answer all the questions. She gets to, meet with Chris. She gets to meet with the umpires. She gets to, this summer she got to speak Spanish to the umpires, and Tim Walton just goes coach third base, and they tell him to stay in that little painted little area. Got to stay in the chalk box, but it was fun. Like, I just really enjoyed it. I got to coach third base. I got to run the infield, run the defense, and be able to communicate that. And then we had players like pitchers, for example. They all wanted to get out of the circle and get a little better. Like, they just didn't want to be stuck in that circle and having everybody around them make up for, their overhand throw or their lack of speed or some other stuff. We just, and we did that. We've done that every time we've been together now. We've won 2 world championships, a Pan Am championship, and then obviously the world championship qualifier last Ireland. And I don't know the exact staff moving forward to Italy this summer, but super excited about going over, because I get a call or an email from Italy. I get an email from the Czech Republic. I get an email from the Netherlands every summer, pre-summer. Hey, we want players to come over here and play. I've sent someone to Italy. I've sent someone to the Netherlands. I've sent someone. We've sent somebody over there who obviously a college graduate who wanted to continue to play, and to be able to do that. In the world, in the European championships, I believe.
Right.
That.
Yeah.
It's super cool to see that, because I got stake in the game. Like, I got someone over in Harlem, or we got somebody over in Italy. It's just,
your European softball. I love that. Yeah. That European Cup is so special. And there are 3 different basically divisions. And so there's so much opportunity to play. And I know that depending on the tournament, they can have 2 international players for some of them. And, your players, when they come back, what's their experience been like?
Really prideful. Like, they understand why towns don't like each other. It's very quick to like, hey, we don't hang out with those guys, 6 months out of the year, because we're competitors. Whether you become a competitive town because of soccer or football, or you become a competitive town because of employment or opportunities, or because there's just some kind of a vendetta against the other country. I don't know, but they've all had really good experiences, and the teams that they've played for, obviously, when you get a foreigner, which we would be in the United States, to go play over there, it's somebody who's going to impact the program, whether it's a pitcher, a catcher, a leader, something. I think we've sent the right people over. Who have had good experiences, but then also have taken time to grow the game and teach and educate. And, Kelly Barnhill went over there quite a few times, and, she dominated, and then it's the same thing how the Japanese have gotten so much better, is that our best players in our country had gone over there for so many years. And, whether it was Lisa Fernandez or Michelle Smith or Natasha Watley and Monica Abbott, the players, and the list goes on and on and on. We've done a great job of being able to, they've invested in their athletes and then their workplace. And it's the same thing needed in Europe. Obviously, we know that if we can get Europe, because there's so many countries in Europe, to play softball, it's never going to go away from the Olympics, right? I mean, that's the goal, hopefully, is to keep it in the Olympics. And I'm not saying that I want USA to ever lose, but it wouldn't be the worst thing that ever happened if, somebody, you know what I mean? Like a European country just got so good at it and grew to where the country could sustain their own players. In other words, be able to have all the players from Great Britain be all from Great Britain or from Ireland, or, obviously Great Britain. You guys can draw from Northern Ireland, Wales, and England. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Scotland. And yeah, it's 4 nations, Great Britain.
Okay.
And it's funny when you're talking about the European Championship. I don't know a lot of people that know this because I'm never really on the other side, but I played in 2 European Championships over there. I came out of retirement, I think, at the age of 34. And they said, "Tara, we need you to play." And I said,
they needed the speed threat. They needed some speed.
Yes. And so I played for Croatia and I played for Great Britain. But why I'm telling this story is because, again, it was another key and pivotal moment in my personal life that allowed me to fall kind of back in love with the game and being around people that were anywhere from, 17 to 40 and playing for their local club team and playing for their club in their city or their county or their region, depending on where they were. And that was so fun because it wasn't this high performance. We've got to win. We've got to make it to Oklahoma City. It was, let's play the game because it's fun.
Yeah, that's cool. I read that. I want to say, and I don't remember if it was after you were appointed the head coach, but I read about that where you had basically said you had fallen back in love with the game, and what does it take for someone to fall back? What does it, because I could think about this. I'm one of these persons, and this is going to sound weird, but I just don't think there's such a thing. Really, when you start to talk about kids, they're and what I mean, I guess I'm trying to think my words correctly here, but I just don't think that you're going to ever get to a point where you're going to get tired of doing something. You're just going to get tired of doing it no matter what. Like, I don't think you can overdo it. I lost my train of thought on the exact way to phrase this, but how does one fall out of love but fall right back in love with the game? That obviously the game has done way more for my life than I've ever done for the game, and I'm sure you could probably feel the same way.
I feel so indebted to the game, but there was also a time, and I don't think a lot of people, I think we're getting better at this, where I was exhausted. I was burnt out, and the constant rigorous training and the pressure to be, playing at this high of a level for, that many years. It got to the point where there was a tipping point, and my last year at UCLA was a tough year. And, we didn't make it out of our regional for the first time ever in the history of the program. And I think it was an identity piece too, because you're tied to this sport and all is I'm a softball player. And then I think when that's gone and it's taken away from you, that was a really tough transition. And so instead of, getting back into it and staying in it, I just walked away for a little bit. I still coached. I still gave slapping lessons and outfield lessons and was around it. But I needed to kind of step back and remember why I loved it. And then that story I told earlier, I think was, a big catalyst for coming back and falling back in love per se.
Yeah, I'm glad you said my word. You said the word. I've never, at the youth level, again, I've never felt like one could get burnt out. Like I've never like I want to hit, I want to pitch. You couldn't tell me that I couldn't practice baseball when I was younger, because I practiced every day. I'd throw a ball. There's a hole at my house in the brick wall because I threw a baseball through the same brick probably 10 million times. And all I wanted to do was to do it and do it and do it and do it. And I just don't believe you could really ever burn out from something that you truly, truly love. And I always tell that to parents, like, don't worry about your kid. If your kid wants to practice, if your kid wants to play, let them play. Like, you're not going to burn them out. Like, if you're dragging them or you have to carry their bag or, then they're probably going to burn themselves out anyway, because they just don't have passion for it. Right. I mean, it's, you said something really cool. And I think back to a moment. So, I started coaching softball in 99, and actually in January of 99. So it's kind of a mid-year hire, which is very odd.
Yeah.
But Coach Gasso hired me back to my alma mater. We went the first year, and I was just the guy who was just learning. I sat on the bucket. I tried to learn what cheers we're going to do when we're ahead, which cheers we need to do when we're behind. And I hit outfield balls, and we did all this stuff. And, and I got to go in the cages and do things, tee and kick front toss, and just learn. And we had some good ones. When 2000, we play UCLA for the national championship and win. A couple of the really good players for UCLA were actually probably Stacy Newman and maybe Christy Ambrosi, I think was the name. They were both on the national team, so they weren't part of it.
Amanda Freed, maybe?
Amanda Freed pitch. She had her changeup was stupid. It was like Bugs Bunny throwing a pitch.
Right?
Like
people don't, right? Her changeup and Jamie Southern. Do you remember Jamie Southern?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I think Jamie Southern either went to Clovis West or Bullard. She's a Fresno kid. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Both those changeups. Anyways, sorry.
Fresno Force originally for Jamie.
Yes.
But so we win. We beat UCLA. An odd play to end. Don't even need to go into the specifics, but it was a really good softball game. And I'll never forget in my office, I got a note. It was mailed. I opened it up. I read it. It's from Coach Enquist. And so she just talks about welcome to the club and just wrote this really awesome, genuine card. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, like we just beat UCLA and the head coach at UCLA has the time and respect to handwrite a note to all the coaches at the University of Oklahoma. I was blown away with that type of, and that's what the NFCA is, to be honest with you. It's a group of people that truly understand what it takes to be really good, but you can't be really good by yourself. You need to be pushed. You need to have, you can't ever, UCLA can't just win it every year in order for our sport to be, to grow the proper way. And not that I ever want to lose, but if you're going to lose, at least you're going to lose to somebody who's going to do it right and develop. And that was probably my turning point in softball, where I went from, I coached softball to our game. I think that was probably one of the biggest differences in my coaching career. And I thought I used to write a note, even when I was a Wichita State head coach, and send a note to Cal, or send a note to UCLA, or send a note to Arizona, or send a note to Washington, or all the teams that won. I used to send a note all the time because of Coach Enquist. I was so
I love that.
Fascinated by that. And
she was always great at that. She was always great.
She can turn a room. She can turn a room in a heartbeat. She walks into the room's going to go from, it's 2 claps, everybody's ready to go.
Yeah.
And
So imagine that every day at practice.
I text her now and she's like, yeah, I'm just getting out. I just got done surfing. It's 5:00 in the morning. She's already got, 3 sets in. She's done. She's just, when you mentioned about not getting eliminated from the regional, I just thought back to her and just going, she would not have been happy. Your first day of school, you guys are going to get your butts kicked, but the motivation and inspiration in the process that she has, she's had such a huge influence on my career, even from afar, but she's taken time to personally, help me with certain things and motivate me and connect me with people along the way. I have a lot of respect for what she developed and what she is, what the brand, we'll call it a bubble, if you may, of what she, and then I had a former high school Jenny Brewster. So she would have probably played with you for 1 year, right?
I didn't play with her, but I know Jenny Brewster.
She could really hit it, man. She could, in Cerritos, where I grew up, they played Sir Art Norris softball, some of the best Bobby Sox. I think
Bobby Sox. Yes.
Unbelievable. The pitching was amazing. I mean, I can't even tell you how good some of the pitchers are. I can't tell you all the names now just because as soon as they hang up, I'll probably go, oh my gosh, I could think about all these. But Jenny Brewster could really hit it, and it was such a great athlete. Softball, baseball, basketball. She could soccer. She could do it all. She was just an amazing athlete, and I know she hit a grand slam to win the World Series for UCLA 1 year. That was pretty special.
I know that you're secretly a SoCal guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if people remember that.
Yeah, it's been a minute. in a minute. Yeah.
Secretly, SoCal
When you're
Cerritos.
getting when you get a bat that says, "Hey, thanks for 25 years," and you start to, it's crazy. I'm just thankful I can I have I have my hair, but it's all different colors now, so it's crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
I had so much fun, and I think what I would love to do is maybe get some letters, people to write some letters in to see what they want to hear from you. It's going to be Walton's World. What are we calling it? Walton's
Yeah.
World?
Okay, so you said that earlier, you and Gray, and I said, okay, Walton's World. So automatically, we have at the University of Florida, we've got here's our support group. So we have the Rowdy Reptiles, so they support our basketball programs. You have the Wise Guys, they support our Mary Wise is our volleyball coach, and so the Wise Guys. Then you had at the softball games, we had Walnuts. So they're Walnuts. There are people that are going to get crazy and support our softball program. But as soon as you said Walton's World, I automatically went, okay, vacation, Chevy Chase, John Candy, and we're going to Wally World. And I'm like, I would.
That means we can take it on tour. That means we can go on tour.
That means I can go back to Six Flags at Wally World. I can go back down to Colossus, so we can do the old school wooden roller coaster. But
it makes sense because we will be on tour in various countries across the entire world.
I'm so excited about going to Italy this summer. It's one of those places. I have been to Canada and I've been to Mexico before I ever did USA softball. Now I've been to Australia, I've been to Ireland, I've been to Scotland, I've been to France, I've been to Chile, and now I'm going to go to Italy. I mean, I've never been able to go to any of those places, and you're right about that. We're going to go on a cool tour. I wish I was a little bit more like documentary, like I could do a little bit like get the old video camera and video all the stuff. And I just collect the pins, so I just get the pins to tell me where I've been now, and from the other teams we play, it's pretty fun. But I tell you what, I would love it if somebody wanted to pick my brain about things or hear about things. I tell you, that's one thing that softball. This is different than I played professional baseball, and sharing in baseball is real, but it's usually only by people that like you're not getting information for the most part against a competitor. Softball has been something like that where it's so different because it's a share. It's not because we're not afraid of losing. It's about growing the game. And if you've got I just had a young person leave our program yesterday that came in here and spent the day talking about what's the leadership like, what's our what kind of resources do we put into mental health, and I'm a big believer in two things on mental health. Mental health has a category, and then sports performance is a separate category. Even though they may be interconnected, I try to separate those two. I don't want people that that are trying to get better at sports performance to think that we think they have some type of a mental issues. But if someone has some things that they want to talk about or things they need to communicate with, I want to be able to put that that mental health piece in a bucket that's safe and protected, and give them an opportunity to really feel like their experience at Florida is a great experience. So, but I would love to hear from people if this is something that like I said, this was meant to be a one-time deal. I wanted to do this because you're trying to do something in Europe that nobody's been able to do yet, and that is to grow European softball to a level that allows all the European countries that are going to host the Olympics here in the future, whether it be 2032, 2036, 2040, whatever the year is, we need softball and baseball to be in the Olympics every single year. There's no reason why our sport should go away. And so you're doing that. And I think that needs to be recognized. And I know you're the seventh coach in the history of Great Britain softball, so you're not the first person to try to do this. But with your platform, and let's just say with the Softball America or the Softball United platform that could eventually, develop, why not? Why can't we share ideas? Why can't we do a podcast and pull Heather Tarr or Colin Laverty from Ireland, who's, the guy's basically constructing softball in a country that, that I can't even think of all the sports that he was telling me about. Obviously, they have rugby, they have soccer. They have what was the one sport that they played that was kind of violent? Anyway,
rugby is pretty violent. Rugby is pretty violent.
Yeah, but this one was like had a stick, and they were trying to
not lacrosse.
No, it was war. They were trying to beat each other up with this stick. It looked like.
Well, we
Um,
could get Colin on here. We could get
I,
everybody on here.
I
And I think
love
that's
I
great.
love Colin. Like he's just his passion to grow softball in Ireland for a country that's never played it before. And again, I pitch it back to you because
Yeah.
again, what you guys did from head to toe, we got rained out in a day, and you guys found a spot in Ireland to go train indoors to get to not even just to get better, but I'm sure it's just to understand what it's like to build a championship level culture from the ground up. And I pay attention to that stuff. I know we, as a coaching staff, we pay attention to the little things, and it takes a lot of little things to get better. And I mean, honestly, Great Britain softball's in great hands, and it was clear to see. Didn't work out for you in the scores and the other stuff, and that's all part of luck. We know that, but
Yeah.
to me, it's doing it right, recognizing you're doing it right. I think it was awesome. So this is meant to be a one-off to really share experiences. But if it's going to be more than that, I think it'd be super fun.
Yeah.
My wife said that I had to say this,
Yes.
and I think this is because my wife Samantha is the only reason why I coach softball. To be honest with you, because she was a really good basketball player, and I had a great opportunity to learn. I knew nothing about female athletics, not because none of my family's ever played sports, but my wife, my sister-in-law, and they did everything the same way I did. They got up and we trained. You compete, you practice, you get up and do it again and again and again. And so Samantha and I developed this bond where, that she did her own practice with her coach's practice, and then I'd say, "Hey, you want to go shoot tonight?" And it was kind of a cool way to go, kind of on a date, but yet you're still getting kind of fun. And so we'd go shoot every night. And she was, and it changed her game, to be honest with you. I'm not taking credit for that because I always said, but I already practiced. Yeah, but that's the coach's practice.
Yep.
Your practice, the unrequired stuff, is the only way you're going to get better. And let's just go work and work and work. And so we did it, and it was so much fun. It bonded us, but I paid attention to her work ethic. I paid attention, and I was like, this is unbelievable. So when I got an opportunity to coach softball, I ran it by her first, obviously, to be a guy coaching women. Hey, what do you think?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, if you think you'd like it, I said, I really don't know, but if they train as half as hard as you do, I'm going to love it. And the rest is history. And so she said this, that I need to make sure I share this with everybody to know that my time with USA softball is very small in my bucket. Like I don't do it like you do. I don't do it 24/7. I'm doing it I'm an assistant coach who has zero power and zero influence on the team. I just get to go help, like I said earlier, help my players get better at what they want to get better at, and provide just another consistent, reliable person. But, I've learned so much from USA softball, and I've learned so much from international softball that I've been able to integrate into my program and add some things that Heather was really good at, add some things that Trial was really good at, add some things that the Japanese team is really good at. And so it's been really, to go back to my original statement I made about my old athletic director, Jeremy Foley, my investment in USA softball has been really good for Tim Walton and really good for the Gators because I've really grown as a person and as a coach. And I wouldn't have had that opportunity have I never taken it. And very thankful for that. Even though it's a short period of time every year, it's still, it actually keeps my juices, like you said about the past.
Yeah.
Like it's a restart. And every time I put this, I haven't wore this since the Pan Am games. Every time I put this thing on, it's like, man, I get fired up to do it again. And it's cool. So thanks for doing this. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully we can do this again. And if it's not until after we get to share maybe we have to share a pint, and that's what we call them, right? Pints in Great Britain somewhere, or a cafe or in Italy. I guess we'd say ciao, or ciao. I don't know how you'd say it, but something I'm up to learn. But super cool, a lot of fun. I hope we will get some letters and more positives than negatives. I'm an old Joe Madden fan, and that is, I think there should be two forms of Twitter: positive Twitter and negative Twitter, and you can't be on both. I think that's his quote, and I love positive Twitter. So thanks for having me, and super fun.
Thanks for being here. Gray Robertson, thanks for producing. He's in the background with us as well. So maybe we'll get him on here. Thanks, guys.
I love it. I love it.